Shalom and good evening. Welcome to TV7 Israel News, broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. I'm Erin Viner, sitting in for Jonathan Hessen. And in today's top stories, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praises Israeli security forces for their unrelenting activity in targeting terror elements seeking to harm Israeli civilians and soldiers. Unidentified aircraft strike multiple targets in Syria's western regions in an attack which Damascus has attributed to Israel. The United States welcomes efforts to de-escalate tensions in the Middle East following the Chinese-brokered rapprochement agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Israeli security forces conducted extensive counter-terror activities throughout the West Bank districts of Judea and Samaria over the weekend as part of Operation Wavesbreaker. IDF, Israel's security agency, also known as the ISA or the Shin Bet, and police border special operations units successfully apprehended 18 suspected terror operatives. In tandem overnight on Sunday, a number of armed Palestinian militants opened fire toward IDF troops stationed near Jit Junction in the Samaria district. Golani Reconnaissance Unit soldiers engaged in operational activity nearby responded to the incident, and following a brief exchange of fire, 3 of the armed gunmen were neutralized. Another member of the Palestinian cell surrendered himself to the Israeli forces and was transferred to the ISA for questioning. No injuries were reported among the Israeli forces. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, during opening remarks to his weekly cabinet meeting, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu voiced his government's prayers for a speedy recovery for the wounded Israelis from the abhorrent terror attack last Thursday night, while praising security forces for their resolved response to those who seek to harm Israel.
בשם ממשלת ישראל אני מבקש למסור את תפילותינו להחלמתם של פצועי הפיגוע הקשה אתמול בתל אביב, או שלשום בתל אביב. אני מצדיע למתנדב וללוחמים שחיסלו את המחבל. אנחנו הנחינו להרוס את ביתו, עצרנו את אביו של המחבל יחד עם מעורבים נוספים בפיגוע הקשה הזה. אנחנו נמצא איתם את הדין. אני מבקש גם לשבח את לוחמי סיירת גולני שחיסלו הלילה בשומרון 3 מחבלים. כפי שכולנו רואים, כוחותינו פועלים סביב השעון נגד מבקשי נפשנו. והעיקרון הוא פשוט. מי שמנסה לפגוע בנו או פוגע בנו, דמו בראשו.
Netanyahu, who returned from a state visit to Italy on Sunday morning, further highlighted Jerusalem's efforts to garner additional support in the West vis-a-vis the Islamic Republic of Iran.
הבוקר חזרתי מביקור מדיני חשוב באיטליה, כחלק מהמדיניות שלנו לגבש עמדה תקיפה יותר ובמידת האפשר אחידה יותר במדינות המערב נגד הגרעין האיראני. בנוסף לנושא האיראני, דיברתי עם ראש ממשלת איטליה מלוני על חיזוק הציר הפרו-ישראלי באיחוד האירופי, שינוי בהצבעות איטליה באום ובמוסדות בינלאומיים, ייצוא גז ישראלי לאיטליה ודרכה לאירופה, ופרויקטים כלכליים משמעותיים נוספים. את כל אלה אנחנו נקדם בביקור של ממשלת איטליה בישראל בחודשים הקרובים. גם על כך הוסכם בביקור.
Several hours prior to the cabinet meeting in the Israeli capital, Damascus blamed Jerusalem for carrying out yet another alleged aerial strike against militant targets in the western part of Syria in the Tartus and Hama countrysides. According to the Syrian military sources cited by the regime-run Sana news agency, unidentified aircraft launched salvos of missiles from the direction of northern Lebanon around 7:15 in the morning yesterday. Despite deployment of Syria's aerial defense array in an attempt to intercept the incoming projectiles, all of the targets were reportedly struck and injured at least 3 soldiers of Syria's air defense units. Even though Syria has blamed Israel, the IDF spokesperson's unit has neither confirmed nor denied involvement in the attack in response to TV7's request for comment. With that being said, however, intelligence sources informed TV7 that Iran has been stepping up efforts to transfer sophisticated weaponry to its proxies in both Syria and Lebanon, crossing a clearly established red line by Israel. In related developments, Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian made an official state visit to Damascus over the weekend, where he voiced his country's hope that Syria would revitalize its relations with Turkey as part of mediation efforts spearheaded by Russia.
در این چارچوب از نشست چهارجانبه تهران، دمشق، مسکو و آنکارا با هدف دستیابی به همکاری‌های هرچه بیشتر و خارج شدن منطقه از بحران و سوء تفاهمات استقبال می‌کنیم.
وكلانا متفائلان بأن هذه التطورات التي نسعى من خلالها إلى تطبيع الأوضاع في المنطقة وخارج المنطقة.
As a stakeholder in Syria's internal affairs, with seeming interest to protect its various suspect activities throughout the country, Tehran has made every effort to participate in the Moscow-led mediation efforts to renew ties between Ankara and Damascus. China's simultaneously growing influence throughout the Middle East has brought about a substantive development which may be regarded as a blow to Israel in particular. After years of hostility due to an ongoing rivalry between the two major streams in Islam, the Sunni and the Shia, Beijing secured an agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia that will see the resumption of diplomatic relations and reopening of each other's embassies within 2 months. Riyadh's consent to restore ties came in exchange for a commitment by the Ayatollah regime to stop further attacks and curtail support for militant groups that have repeatedly targeted the kingdom, including most notably the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen. Moreover, according to the head of Iran's National Security Council, the détente is aimed at ending prospects of normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel.
مذاکره ما بین دو کشوری که حدود 7 سال روابطشون قطع بود یک گشایشی توی روابط ایجاد بشه. آقای رئیسی هم موافقت کردن مبتنی بر اون توافق من 6 روزی هست در بکنم و مذاکراتی در این رابطه رو با همتای خودم از عربستان سعودی داشتم و در نهایت به این تصمیم رسیدیم که فصل جدیدی بعد از 7 سال قطعی روابط ما بین ایران و جمهوری اسلامی ایران و عربستان سعودی با رعایت مصالح دو کشور، امنیت منطقه و خیرخواهی برای منطقه و جلوگیری از دخالت‌های بیجای نیروهای فرامنطقه‌ای بلحاظ غرب و همچنین شیطنت‌های مداوم رژیم صهیونیستی در منطقه با هم داشته باشیم.
It is interesting to note that the Iranian commitment to seize regional activities against Saudi interests has far-reaching consequences for its proxies, including those in Lebanon, the most powerful of which is the Hezbollah terror organization that refuses to believe that the Islamic Republic would ever end its support for its devotees, regardless of its reported pledge.
هذا تحول جيد طيب. نحن ليش بنكون سعداء؟ لأن نحن عنا ثقة إنه هذا ما بيكون حساب شعوب المنطقة. أكيد هذا بيكون لمصلحة شعوب المنطقة. إذا بيتعاونوا بينفتحوا على بعضهم أكيد هذا بيساعد. بيساعد بلبنان، بيساعد باليمن، بيساعد بسوريا، بيساعد بالمنطقة. وثقتنا مطلقة بأنه هذا لا يكون على حسابنا. ولا على حساب الشعب اليمني، ولا على حساب سوريا، ولا على حساب المقاومة.
Meanwhile, in Washington, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about China's involvement in brokering the Iranian-Saudi rapprochement, and while stopping short of addressing China's deepening role in the Middle East, she highlighted appreciation by the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden for any development that would de-escalate tensions throughout the volatile region.
Look, we welcome any efforts to help end the war in Yemen and de-escalate tensions in the Middle East region. That is one of the reasons why the president, you saw him travel over the summer to have those conversations. De-escalation and diplomacy together with deterrence are key pillars of the policy that President Biden outlined during his visit in July in the region. So again, de-escalation, tensions in the Middle East clearly is a priority, and he welcomes that.
It is worth observation that both Moscow and Beijing are both heavily invested in Tehran and Riyadh's economies, respectively. Following the normalization agreement between Saudi Arabia and Iran, China highlighted that it has become the largest importer of crude oil from both countries, despite vigorous U.S. sanctions against the Iranian oil industry. In fact, Iran's oil minister proclaimed that his nation's exports have reached record high levels last year, to a total of 83 million barrels since just March 21st, 2022. In parallel, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has also announced record-breaking rates, with the state-owned Aramco company reporting an all-time high annual net profit of $161.1 billion in 2022, up 46% from the previous year, due to higher energy prices, increased volumes sold, and improved margins for refined products. And while the United States has repeatedly urged its Gulf partners to increase output amid Western efforts to mitigate soaring energy prices following a collective decision to shun Russian energy over the war in Ukraine, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, alongside its Gulf allies, remains unyielding in coordinating oil output with Russia as part of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries plus Russia group, known as OPEC+.
Подтвердили взаимную готовность к дальнейшей координации действий в рамках ОПЕК+. Все страны-участницы этого формата последовательно выполняют взятые на себя обязательства с целью обеспечения должного баланса и стабильности на мировом рынке энергоносителей.
المملكة وروسيا في أسواق الطاقة والتزام المملكة الثابت باتفاق أوبك+, والعمل على ضمان استقرار أسواق الطاقة العالمية بما يخدم مصلحة المنتجين والمستهلكين على حد السواء.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to encourage you to pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, as well as for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, a blessed week, and God willing, we will see you here again tomorrow at the same time.